Hi all, welcome to the Millennial Farmhouse. It's Damira here. If you're new, welcome, and I hope that this is for you. And if you've joined me before, thank you so much for joining me for another video. I want to take this time to encourage you to subscribe to the Millennial Farmhouse, as I like to share cleaning videos, coffee bars, and seasonal decorating. In today's video, I'll be sharing how I set up my new Farmhouse coffee bar. Just to give you a little background, when I started doing coffee bars or coffee carts, I had this white metal cart that was in my kitchen, and it was small and it had 4 tiers or baskets. And I had that cart with me all the way from undergrad. So just a really long time, but it started to break down. So last year, actually, I began using the peninsula in between our living room and kitchen as my coffee bar area. Now, I was only able to use that space for a few months before we had a change in our home and I was no longer able to use it. I thought instead it'd be perfect to put a coffee bar in my room because I like to have a cup of coffee in my room in the mornings anyway. So I had a black metal stand that I was using as a bookcase, and instead I turned that into my in-room coffee bar. Now the shelves on that stand were not solid, it was metal rods, so I just placed cardboard on each shelf, and then I ended up decorating it as my Christmas coffee bar. Then for Christmas, I actually received this Farmhouse coffee bar that I am putting together in this video. So I'm going to assemble all of the pieces, and I'll just let the video play so you can see how it came about. And at the end, I didn't get a chance to decorate this coffee bar immediately. Instead, I just placed some of my basics and my necessities onto the coffee bar. And the first time I really decorate it will be for Valentine's Day, which will be a different video in a couple of weeks. But I'm going to let this video play so you can see how this came along. So it wasn't hard to assemble this coffee bar, but as you can see, quite a few of the pieces are very similar. And they were labeled with letters. However, when looking at the instructions, there were no written instructions. So I wasn't necessarily reading how to put this together. I was looking at pictures, and while the pictures are fine, usually it's the illustrations of the nuts and bolts and screws that were a little confusing because some of them looked very similar, but they weren't. And so it took me a little bit of time to put this together correctly. At one point, I did place one of the shelves on upside down. I think it was that bottom shelf all the way at the bottom of this coffee bar, which did make a difference because when I put the doors on, the doors actually clicked into two holes that were on the shelf. And so because I had placed it upside down, the holes were facing the ground instead of facing upward. So I did have to take that apart and redo that shelf again. But for the most part, everything else was really easy. It was just a matter of taking time to figure out exactly which screws were the correct ones to use in different spots. I will say though that using the tiny little tools that they provide was a challenge, okay? My hands are too big for those tiny little tools. And so it was definitely interesting, to say the least. This coffee bar came with wheels, but it also came with rubber feet, so you have options when putting it together. I chose to use the wheels because I definitely switched things around in my room a lot, and I just think it would be easier to be able to move this cart with the wheels. And then that way, whenever I move it, I don't necessarily have to take everything off of it or out of the drawers to be able to move it. So the wheels will be helpful for that. But again, it also comes with rubber feet if you plan to just leave it in place and you want a more locked in positioning, I would say. And as you can see, I am pretty much done with putting it together. Again, the only reason it really took me so long was because the illustrations of some things just looked very similar, and so it's a matter of figuring out what was what and what went where. But other than that, putting it together was actually really easy. And it comes with this collapsible drawer, which I thought was really cool because it's large, it's lightweight, so it doesn't, make this cart any heavier than it needs to be. And it was just perfect. And I like the drawer pull that's on it too. I thought that was really cute. So you can see it's a pretty good size. It's not too large, it's not too small. I do have a lot of coffee bar items usually, and so this will be something that I will have to figure out how to decorate. Anytime I change my coffee bar area, I have to learn how to decorate that space, because what worked in a different area or using a different cart or counter or whatever doesn't necessarily work for the next one. And so I think that'll be fun and pretty interesting to do. Here I am not decorating the coffee bar yet. As I mentioned before, the first time I decorate will be for Valentine's Day, but I did want to get some of my stuff onto this coffee bar so that I could actually start using it. And so one thing I wanted to do was put all of my coasters at the back of this drawer and then put all of my K-cups in the drawer. And I have two different K-cups. One is a donut shop blend and then the other is just Colombian coffee. And I wanted to make sure to get all of that out and set up because I drink coffee every single day. And while again I'm not decorating yet, I still need the coffee bar to be functional at this time. I actually really thought that this drawer was perfect for all of those K-cups. So I have K-cups in bulk with these two flavors here, and it just made sense to stack them or to organize and lay them all in that drawer. It's just so accessible, but it keeps them hidden out of the way, you know? And then I moved on to the top. As you can see, I have two coffee makers. I have my Keurig, and then I also have my espresso machine. And this is a challenge. So again, this coffee bar is a good size. I just happen to have a lot of stuff. And of course, two machines take up a lot of space. So again, it's going to be really interesting to decorate this and to figure out a way that keeps it fully functional for me at all times. So what I'm doing here is I just left both the machines on the top for now. And I went and put my coffee syrups, the extra, as well as the ones in the jars. And then also my ground coffee, which are also in jars. And so I left those here on this top shelf. And these are easily accessible. And again, I'm doing all of this setup just to make it functional for now. On the middle shelf, I placed a tray and it just has a few things that I need. I put in a rag, I believe, my dump bucket or whatever you might call it, and a rubber mat. And then I put my extra ground coffee behind there, as well as a few mugs. And then I also added in a brown box, and inside of there I actually keep my tea and my chai latte mix. So I again was just putting things here to make it functional because I do utilize this every day. And so I'm in that transitional period between decorating for seasons or holidays, but just because I'm not decorating doesn't mean I'm not actually using the coffee bar. In the bottom cupboard, I do have all of my mugs. So one thing I really wanted to do in putting a coffee bar in my room was to be able to bring all of my coffee bar items up from our basement. So because I do a lot of the seasonal decorating with my coffee bar, I just have different mugs and different decor related to certain holidays or seasons that when it's not in use, I pack them up and store them in our basement. But I don't want to always have to constantly go down to that basement and bring things up and then have to right away switch things out so that I can go put, the storage bins back in the basement, and then sometimes, I don't get to it right away. So my storage bins are actually up in the house for a couple of weeks and it can be a lot. But I really wanted to be able to bring all of my coffee bar items up and keep them in the room. So again, all of my mugs are in that bottom cupboard. And then this brown wicker basket that's here has more of my coffee items. So obviously I have a lot and some things couldn't fit on the coffee bar or in the cupboards. So I put them in the brown bin. And then I also have a lot of just different kitchen towels that I usually keep on my coffee bar. And every time I bring them up from storage, I have to wash them first, just because, you get that icky feeling of having them be down in the basement. And so what I did this time was I just brought them all up together, washed them all at once, and then stored them in that basket. And then I have a tray here where I just added a few snacks. And as you can see, again, it's not decorated, but it is set up. And so I am able to use this every single day. I think that this coffee bar is beautiful. It's perfect for my space and it works as far as I can tell. So again, this is how it turned out, and right now it is functional and I am really liking it. If I can find the link for this farmhouse style coffee bar, I will definitely put it below, as well as links to some of the other things I usually use on the coffee bar. If you guys have liked this video, I encourage you to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to the Millennial Farmhouse. I like to share cleaning videos, coffee bars, and seasonal decorating. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.